Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We, in fact, are coming to you from the Agnes Varis NJTV studio in beautiful Newark, New Jersey. It's our pleasure to introduce two guests who's been with us before, two experts who know politics and government. Dale Florio, Republican strategist and founder, Princeton Public Affairs Group, and Philip Alagia, Democratic strategist, chief of staff in beautiful Essex County, where we are taping. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Good to see you.
Nice to be here.
Full disclosure, we're doing this program a few weeks after a historic race. Congress goes Democrat, the House. Senate stays Republican. What do you think that means in terms of the ability of folks to work together on the issues that matter in our lives, Dale Florio?
Steve, hope springs eternal.
But what do you think?
I'm not very optimistic. I mean, the President, Trump, has shown a proclivity to stir the pot. And it looks, at least as of today, that Nancy Pelosi may be the...
Let's assume she is. What do you think it means?
Well, then you have a California leader and you have a New York leader, Senator Schumer. East and West Coast, very liberal-minded legislators. And Trump, it's just not going to mix.
It's
a toxic mixture.
A toxic mix. So Philip Alagia from my old neighborhood in the North Ward of Newark, New Jersey, you knew politics then, and you know it even better now. You say?
It's the most divisive time. I mean, we talked about how in the past Democrats and Republicans would be in the legislature, would be in Congress, but they'd get together afterwards to talk about things. I don't think you see that anymore. Either you're left or you're right. Either you're red or you're blue.
Is it worse?
From my perspective, absolutely. I mean, I don't think you're going to get things done. I think you want to get victories. You don't want to get compromised.
You know, the one thing, and I don't want to be overly philosophical with two guys who understand the nuts and bolts of politics and campaigns, but I've been thinking about this a lot. You ever notice how people who say, and again, Phil and I grew up in the same neighborhood, know a lot of the same people. Some of those folks in suburban Essex and other places, they like Donald Trump. They believe in him. And so if you get into a conversation with them and say, you know, you see how the president said he's thinking about women or someone's appearance? Oh, that's ridiculous. Look at the economy. And I'll ask where they get their information. And here's the point I'm making. And by the way, my progressive friends, same thing. Hate him no matter what he does. And here's my point. Do you notice more and more that people who have a certain point of view basically get the information they want to get and need to get that reinforces what they already believe, don't look at anything else? Or am I making too much of that, Dale?
You're not. I mean, research data says that people go and they look for information from places that they're inclined to agree with. We've had this conversation before, Steve. Social media has done so much positive for the world at large. But I think it's also driven a stake in our ability politically to agree, to disagree, and then move on. When somebody can run and do a press conference or put something out over a tweet and go to millions of people that get energized and excited, it doesn't allow for much conversation in between. And both sides use it effectively. And to Phil's point, it's become very polarized, and there's never any time in the middle to take time out to talk things through.
But look at you guys. I mean, you guys have known each other a lot of years, operatives. But in government, government's about getting things done. Both of you have worked to get things done. Are you the anomaly?
I think there's a significant difference between the branches of government. I think an executive has to get things done, where the Congress and the Senate and the local council and stuff, they have a different perspective because they're not leading their municipality, their town, their state. The governor has a different position than the legislature, who can philosophize and make laws and do different things, but doesn't have to get as many things done.
And legislators can what? Just throw bombs and be critical and that's it?
Absolutely.
And they're not accountable for what they do?
Well, I think they are accountable, but it's significantly
in their
easier
minds
to throw bombs. And you know, you don't have to get results.
So bring it back to New Jersey. We have a Democratic governor. We have two houses of the legislature, both Democrats. Why is there some gridlock in the State House if everybody's a Democrat in control? Because of
I'll put some of that blame on redistricting. When you look at the legislative districts in New Jersey, they're pretty safe. There might be 4 or 5 districts.
Define safe.
Meaning that if you're a Democrat or Republican, you're going to probably win by north of 55% every time, and many in the 60
well,
and 65%.
How does that hurt the process?
Because legislators don't have to be as accountable to their voters. They say they are, right? But if you're in a district that could go either way, human nature is you're just going to pay more attention to what your district is saying. When you're not, I think the political quotient goes much higher. So when you have a very safe legislature and a governor who's now there for a couple years, it leads to partisan battles or nonpartisan battles, as the case may be.
Donald Trump, you say?
I say it's embarrassing that he's our president.
Really?
Absolutely.
Like, take politics away. You've been a Democrat your whole life. Take it away.
Absolutely.
As a leader.
Misogynistic. He's someone who just says the wrong things at the wrong times. You know, my children ask me questions when I have the news on that I don't want to answer because of our president. There's some things, listen, I'm not going to say everything's wrong. The economy's in great shape, but he just needs to watch what he says. Words matter, Steve. You know, dealing with this whole caravan, the way he's dealing with pitting one side against the other, calling himself a nationalist, it's embarrassing.
I don't like his style. I like some of the...
It's not yours.
It certainly isn't.
You've always been a gentleman.
I don't like his style, but I do like some of his initiatives.
Can you separate them, Dale?
It's getting harder and harder, Steve. And I saw it...
You were the Republican chairman of a very significant Republican county up in Somerset.
It's getting harder. You really don't... Well, I have to look locally. I haven't seen a wave like we just saw in this past election at the congressional level since Jim Florio was wiped out.
You mean the Democratic wave?
The Democratic wave that brought us to 11-to-1 congressional delegation split, Democrat to Republican. I haven't seen this kind of wave since Jim Florio was wiped out in his midterm elections when both houses went Republican, and I believe veto-proof majorities.
Was that largely about Trump, this 11-to-1 majority for the Dems?
Without a doubt. Well, Trump at the top of the ticket and New Jersey's attitudes toward him certainly attracted some very good candidates. I think the Democrats fielded some pretty good candidates against some strong incumbents.
But he was a major factor.
But he was a major factor.
Phil?
Absolutely. I mean, we saw numbers in areas, you know, we picked up a freeholder seat in Somerset County. Burlington County now has Democratic freeholders, and I think it's all because these middle voters came out not to vote against Trump, and it was really a big benefit.
Well, what does it do, sorry for interrupting, Phil, what does it do for people like John Bramnick? John's a regular guest of our leader of the Republican Party in the lower house in the Assembly. He wrote a piece. He said on the floor of the legislature, hey, we need to stop demonizing each other. We need to just disagree without saying rotten personal things about each other. He got pushback from a lot of Republicans who said, keep your mouth shut and you don't represent all of us. I'm thinking, Dale, he's trying to do it the right way, and some Republicans don't want that. Look at you just looking at me like that. Because you agree with him. You agree with Bramnick. I know you do.
Republicans are in a very difficult position. You want to, right? You want to support your president if he's of your party.
On policy.
On policy. Well, in everything. You'd like to embrace the style, but it's difficult. And you just have to look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. And that's what's making Republicans kind of scratch their head.
Look at the Senate race that was just completed.
Bob Menendez wins that race.
Most of the advertising on both sides was negative. They didn't talk as much about issues. It was about all these sordid tales and you know. But unfortunately, negative campaigning works. No one wants it, but it moves the needle.
Trump's style trumped Bob Menendez's ethics problems.
That's interesting. Gentlemen, keep coming back and breaking it down. And I'm also curious governmentally how things move forward. Dale, Florio, and Philip Alagia, thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks, Steve.
State of Affairs.
Thank you.
We'll be right back right after this, promise.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, New Jersey Sharing Network, Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey, New Jersey Resources, Keystone Mountain Lakes Regional Council of Carpenters, and by GUARINI Institute for Government and Leadership at St. Peter's University.